You're listening to Top Lyne Winnipeg with Nik, Lyne and Brady Ricketts.
Welcome back to another edition of the Top Lyne Winnipeg Jets weekly podcast. And quite the opening 2 weeks for the Winnipeg Jets here, as they are the NHL's only undefeated team, posting a 5-0-0 record. Let's bring in Brady Ricketts to talk about it. How you doing this evening, Brady?
Doing good. A little bittersweet, though. Everyone's calling the Jets Canada's team right now. Hard to blame. 5-0-0 to start. Haven't seen, we'll say a bit of a generous schedule start off, 5-0. I think the first real challenge obviously is that Edmonton game, but ever since then, you can't fault the team taking no nights off and banking those early points, which is what was a main theme for us last week that we were talking about too. Keep banking it while you can, especially while teams like Nashville and Colorado especially are sliding.
Yeah, exactly. And that's what's so exciting here. Obviously, it's early on in the year. There's still 77 games to go. It's a marathon, not a sprint.
That's it? Holy cow.
But that's the thing, right? How often have we seen in this league how important banking those points is early, especially with the loser point, and it becomes harder and harder to jump teams. With the Jets starting off 5-0 and teams like Nashville starting off 0-5 and Colorado 1-4, that's a great early jump on some teams that they were going to be competing with at the top of this central division. And all of a sudden I went from, this is probably a wild card team to the door is wide open and we're only 5 games in, but at this point,
one of those teams will have to just take it from them, right?
And that's what I mean. Like, we're in a spot here with these early points, and hopefully that continues, obviously. Like, it is early, but you see the window open for another type of season where you could win home ice advantage just based on such a hot start when those other teams are going through some issues.
Mm-hmm.
But hey, 5-0-0 schedule. It's going to get tougher as we go, but you can only play your schedule. So let's get into some of the Winnipeg Jets so far. Where do you want to go? Where do you want to go, Brady? Where should we talk about here?
How about we get some of your? We have a better sample size now of what we're seeing from the coaching. So let's start with there. What have you seen so far as a theme going beyond preseason? Now we get a couple of weeks under our belt. Team hasn't lost yet. It's so hard to really fault the coaching too much. But what are you seeing so far?
So yeah, obviously the one conversation that just naturally dominates this market is the coaching staff needing to make that tweak with the two skilled lines at some point, get 55 and 81 away from each other, and really let's see what this team can do. But outside that big conversation, which I'm not even convinced is necessarily in Scott Arniel's hands, which we've kind of talked about as well, I think there's a lot of good going on early that should be discussed as well here. Obviously, the big conversation with Bones retiring and Arniel stepping in. Rick Bowness had really built up the structure here, and this team was a very good defensive team under him. And that was kind of the positive of, you would hope that would continue bringing in Scott Arniel, right? Is he would be able to build off of that. And so far early this year, despite the loss of Brendan Dillon, this team has been a top 5 defensive team through the first stretch of games here. So that's obviously encouraging to see. It was their bread and butter last year. So to see that carry forward, obviously credit to the coaching staff there that's happening. But the big part of that is when you start to really look at the Winnipeg Jets and why they haven't advanced further. There's still some issues with the roster. But last year, one aspect that really held them down throughout the season was their specialty teams. Both units were among the bottom 8 of the NHL. And all of a sudden, both units to start the year have been nothing short of weapons in their own way. The power play unit until today's game being 50% at 7 out of 14. That becomes quite the momentum tipper for a team that still is struggling to generate offensively consistently at 5-on-5, though I think we've seen some signs of that maybe turning a little bit of a corner, still not being good enough. But when you have a power play that can do what it's doing, that becomes less of a concern.
Yeah.
And the penalty kill with the aggression continues to be just a really good piece of that picture. Obviously, Pittsburgh's opening goal today was on the PP, but it's still been, both units have been units that you could really look at and say, hey, this is something we should probably be excited about. And then when you just start to kind of piece together that whole picture, not thinking about trade deadline ads, which this team will need to do, and not thinking about that tweak in the top 6 or 2 skill groups, however you want to frame it, I think you start looking at the framework of what they're trying to build here. And with Connor Hellebyuck in net, still being a strong defensive team and adding real quality specialty teams to the mix, that starts to become quite the framework for a team that you might not want to play come playoff time. Now it's early, but those are some things I'm liking to see that give me a bit more optimism with this group. What's your thoughts on that?
I think just a couple things. I know you just touched on wanting, I think, the 5-on-5 scoring to kind of ameliorate itself. I think I saw a tweet today, probably from JFresh, if I'm not wrong. But the Jets right now are, I think, first in the NHL in scoring above expected goals for on 5-on-5 right now. I know you said like you want that to be, improved upon. I think it's nice, a good thing to touch on at this point. Like it's something to build on a bit more consistently. What we're seeing, like on a structure level of these guys, like not outscoring problems with just a good shooting percentage. Because like there's been some times I've watched some Jets games where I'm almost shocked at how they're scoring goals. Like against the Wild, like the last 3 seconds, pull the goalie on a face-off play like that. Like those are typically low percentage plays. Or even tonight, scoring on a 6-on-5 delay penalty call. Like those to me are like, I might see a couple of those in a season type of goals. So I think you're dead on that. Like there's still some room to improve upon, but if they do, they're going to just keep steamrolling, I suppose.
And that's the thing. I think that's a really good point, that they have been finishing at a level that is number one in the NHL.
Probably a little unsustainable at the moment.
Correct. So they've been getting it done and it's been working. And yeah, it's important that you distinguish that, because what I am talking about is like the process of what they are doing to try and create offense at 5-on-5 versus what's happened so far. Yeah. But that is a thing. And the beautiful thing about being 5-0 and you're getting, the top 5 defensive team, it's still intact. You're getting the specialty teams production. It allows you to really put some focus in on figuring out what are you going to need to do to generate more offense. It's not really like a sound the alarms, let's fix this problem right now. The position they've gotten themselves to is going to allow for them to really, and I think there's been some signs of like, obviously we saw the Ehlers Nemestikov Perfetti line produce a bit more this weekend, though some of that was coming in specialty minutes, like you mentioned, that 6-on-5 goal that Ehlers creates. That's not a 5-on-5 goal. The 4-on-4 goal Ehlers creates for Nemestikov, not a 4-on-4 goal. But I do think we were seeing signs of Perfetti and Ehlers starting to find each other a little bit.
Yeah,
we're talking about this, and I saw a play. I want to say it was in the late first today, about how stylistically it won't be a fit unless Nick Ehlers was to become basically a spot-up shooter. Yeah. And we did see that a little bit today, where Perfetti and Nemestikov were kind of the first guys in on the forecheck, and Ehlers would try and find that soft space. There was there's two that stand out on top of my head, where Ehlers didn't get a great shot off the first one from Perfetti, and then there was like a rebound chance off the second one, if I'm remembering right. So like
you're in the building again tonight?
Yes, sir.
Yeah.
Which was awesome. We're going to talk about some of the stuff going on at the building here today too, with the Brian Little night and the Rutgers stuff. But so you're seeing some stuff turn over on the top line. You're seeing them create some quality looks that are just like half a step or half a second off. Though, again, would like to see a bit more time in that offensive zone for that group. I thought today, actually, the Pittsburgh game was the most assertive I've seen Kyle Connor yet this year. Yep. Obviously, the points have been there at the specialty teams time, but they added a 5-on-5 goal today. And watching his game, I thought he was just much more. Kyle Connor frustrates me when he's not really working in the corners or even trying to battle. Not that he's going to win many battles. And when he's just kind of hanging around the offensive zone, I thought today was a game where when the puck was on his stick in the offensive zone, he was trying to actually attack the net, trying to get to that slot. When he was in on the forecheck, it was a game where he was at least putting in the effort to battle. And I thought that line, created some looks. So I'm still not hopeful long-term on it. But with the way this team started,
crazy. I thought I saw a couple of sneaky, decent defensive plays on the broadcast too from him.
Yeah, there was the one back check I remember early. Like, this was a game where I thought he was much more engaged, and you're not going to hear a lot more criticism in a game like that. Even that goal he scores, it's honestly what we've been kind of talking about with both players. Ehlers creates that whole play, jumps in, he draws the penalty for one, so that they can get that 6-on-5 out there. Which, man, we're in Game 5 and they have 3 6-on-5 goals, and only one of them was to tie a game. Like, it's kind of become a little bit of a weapon for the Jets.
It's crazy. There's so many guys on the ice.
Yeah, and they've done a good job of really creating openings and like looking for a quality shot. You know how you'll watch hockey all year, and when there's a delayed penalty, someone either tries to force something to the net or they'll give it up to kind of get to the power play. The Jets seem to really be using that time early this year, trying to actually create a set play, and it's creating more offense for them, which is huge, right? That goal is scored. We talk about Nick Ehlers being that shot assist creating type guy just last week. That play is exactly what we talked about, where he beats a guy with his wheels and he's looking to get to the puck to the slot. And Kyle Connor, for as much of the stuff we talk that we don't like about his game, he's elite at finding open space in the slot area, finding himself alone and bearing it. And you saw both guys do what they do best on a goal like that. And it felt like the goal in the second period, when that game had gotten away from them for the first 10 minutes of that second, it was all Pittsburgh. The ice had really tilted. It really felt like that goal turned things back around to what we were seeing early on in that game. So, I don't know, just a lot to like. I'd seen on the broadcast because I wasn't in town, back to the coaching too. During the Brian Little in-house video, it looks like, which would have been a TV timeout on the broadcast, it looks like Arniel had really pulled the team in and started really giving it to them, and immediately is rewarded for it. So the team's clearly responding to stuff like that. He knows when to pull it out. I think you got to be pretty happy with the early returns on the Scott Arniel debut in Winnipeg.
That first Jets goal that kind of answered that little press by the Penguins. Immediate. It's like a light switch went off, went straight to their legs, and they just started taking over from there. I think that was like a moment of the game where they could have easily just kind of rolled over and died and been happy with the start of the season so far. But I mean, kudos to them. Like, I don't think Pittsburgh played a bad game. It was probably one of the better games and I've seen them play against the Leafs one so far. I thought that was a much better Penguins team than I've seen so far this season.
Yeah, and on that note, like they were creating some chances. That was a good hockey game for both. Like both teams
fun.
were. Yeah, that was one of those fun ones. There was a ton of shots on net. Both teams are kind of jumping on each other's mistakes and trying to create off of it. And it was one where you're kind of talking about it when the Pens go up 2-0. I had kind of slumped and I was like, I don't know if tonight's going to be the night.
Yeah, they didn't look great up to that point.
Yeah, like I liked their first period, and then it was all Pens for that first 10 minutes, and they go up two goals. I'm like, this kind of turned on its head in a hurry. So to see the Jets be able to respond, and from that point on, put up 6 goals in a 6-3 W, I mean, this team's just giving you a lot of reasons to be excited early on rather than things to worry about. Now, that doesn't mean it's been perfect, but hey, there's a lot to like about where this is going.
Oh, yeah. Big time. So we can start going on there. So we talked about the two skill groups possibly turning a corner. There's another player individually turning a bit of a corner that I know you want to talk about a little bit. Neil Pionk had himself a really great week.
Yeah, hey, that's the thing with a show like this. If you're going to talk about the Jets and players when they're having a rough goes, you got to give them credit and talk about it when it's going well. I thought this was actually a strong Neil Pionk week for the Winnipeg Jets. 3 games in a row at that, where the thing with Neil Pionk, the game gets away from him when he's indecisive or he's overcommitting to things. And I could see how that would kind of create a mental block, right? Like you're overcommitting, getting burnt, so then you're indecisive and then you get burnt.
Yeah.
Right now, he seems to have found the sweet spot of just making the confident reads and going with it. Like the one thing that I think's been big in his game this week is how many times he's jumping the plays in the neutral zone and then jumping in with the forwards on the rush, creating odd man rushes. That's the kind of stuff you want to see from Neil Pionk. Obviously, when he's defending in his own zone, it's not always necessarily the prettiest, but if you can make those reads and make those plays where he doesn't have to spend that time back there and he's actually leading the rush.
Almost playing like a fourth forward at times.
Yeah, and there was a few times today he was the guy screening the net after being the first jump guy. He's the one driving the net to create the seams for the other forwards who are probably a bit more dangerous. I mean, full credit to Neil Pionk on the goal that ends up being the insurance marker that Mason Appleton scores. It's the exact play we're talking about here where Pittsburgh's transitioning and they go to make a pass up the middle and Neil Pionk reads it proper, jumps, and takes it the other way. Like if him and Samberg could keep building off this week, you're going to hear less and less concern about that second pair because that's the type of week you want to see from them in those minutes. Though I also do think I'm not going to make any bold proclamations on it sustaining. You talk about a soft schedule. You talk about we've seen Neil Pionk have really, really strong starts until late November the last couple of years.
Yeah.
But hey, you got to talk up a guy when he's playing well, and I thought this was a very, very strong week for Neil Pionk. I'd make the case the second pair was their best pair most of this week.
Early season Jets kind of hit hard. They hit they hit quick.
They really do. They sure give us reasons to
believe early.
Again. As stressful Granger, I can't pronounce it properly. That's my bad. Keeps calling in. I look forward to right now on the post game show him giving his call in about, hey, they're still on pace for 82-0. Like, we like those vibes, man.
Yeah.
It's fun times at the rink right now.
Bit of the theme of the last 2 weeks for us, I suppose. We're only really talking about the good stuff because we got more coming, I suppose. So we had Brian Little night tonight. Hellebyuck night was, I believe, on Friday, if I'm not wrong.
Yeah.
And so we had the Jennings trophy in the building. We had the Vezina in the house. Chuck Hellebyuck in the house. Something that I saw that kind of interests me, and I don't know if I've seen this before, is that the Jets had the 2 trophies available in the concourse for photo ops with fans, which is awesome. But like I said, I don't know if I've seen that before.
Yeah, honestly, it's one of those things. Obviously, there's been a lot of conversation around the Winnipeg Jets and the in-game experience and selling tickets and all that. As someone that's been to all the games on the homestead so far this year, it's been a lot of fun in that barn. The vibes have been good. People are showing up excited.
It's not
to be
quiet,
there.
even if it's not full. Like, that's the thing.
It was loud today for Little, man. People were buzzing it early in this one. And they really do these event type nights really well. I've found whether it be the specialty nights for different minority groups of individuals or celebrating players like we just saw this weekend. A lot of fun. Like, let's talk about the Hellebyuck night first. You talk about the Jennings and Vezina being in house and fans getting to take pictures and do all that kind of stuff. Like, that's a memory right there. That's the kind of stuff people enjoy. They pass around. They post all over social media. Chuck in the house, obviously, is always a good time. The social media influencer of the
Can't
best
wait for the vlog.
Yeah, can't wait for the vlog on it. Good vibes there. He got a nice cheer when they showed him on the Jumbotron.
They ISO'd him, eh?
They ISO'd him, and the people lost it.
And the broadcast, too, they ISO'd him.
Yeah. He's endeared himself to this market big time. And it was just one of those nights, like, obviously I'm a big Connor Hellebyuck stumper on this show and on social media. But it was just one of those kind of nights where you're in the building and they do the stop and play during one of the timeouts. They show the video, ask the fans to congratulate him on his Jennings and Vesna and all that. And the whole barn just collectively stands up, standing O, clapping. And then it went right into a Helly chant, which was like just so cool to see materially start up like that. But it was also just one of those moments when you sit there in house and you really kind of remember that you're watching greatness in real time and a historic level player in real time. Like, we get so caught up in the individual games and what's happening with the team that sometimes you lose sight of that. And I just thought a night like that was, for me, a big reminder sitting there, like, we're watching a future Hall of Famer, a guy that I believe will end his career as the best American goalie of all time. And to get to celebrate that while it's happening was pretty cool. I really enjoyed that.
And so we saw, a celebration of a guy currently playing for the team. And tonight you got to see a celebration of a guy who signs a one-day contract to retire a Jet. Once again, you were in-house. Talk us through how that was. How was the in-game stuff for that, the pre-game? Because I know that he did take a couple laps for warm-ups. Did he do the whole warm-up?
Just the pre-skate after warm-up.
Oh, after warm-up. I see. So, yeah, Brian Little, first 2.0 to sign or retire a Jet. Hopefully a precursor of some sorts to what we might see from guys like the Mark Scheifele's, the Connor Hellebyucks of the 2.0s as well.
Blake Wheeler, Dustin
Blake
Byfuglien.
Wheeler, yeah. Might be the first of a set of numbers hanging up in the CLC for good. Anything else you kind of want to say about those celebration nights so far?
Yeah, the Brian Little and being there for the Brian Little night was cool. Obviously, first Jet, as you mentioned, in 2.0 to sign a one-day contract and retire, which I think is just another positive step in the right direction as this organization tries to build up legitimacy. Its own roots, its own history. Like, one thing last year I really talked about heavily when there was kind of the rumors of, is Hellebyuck going to go? Is Hellebyuck going to stay? Where I was willing as a fan to see him overpaid for his market, because I believe him retiring as a Winnipeg Jet would equal some legitimacy and legacy to the org that was kind of invaluable for where they are as an organization. Yeah. And to see a guy like Little go out of his way and want to do this was really cool. And to see like how much it meant to him and his family too. Like, this was a guy that was going hard when Adam Lowry scored. Like, he's still invested into this, and that was really cool. For him to jump out there and go for a skate, didn't expect that. I thought that was an awesome touch for him to do this.
He was telling Sarah Orleski that was the first time he's put on skates since he stopped playing.
Come on. And in-house, he did an interview where he was saying how all he was thinking about was not falling and not bumping into anybody. But for him to like just go out there and wear the jersey again, and it was kind of cool to see the crowd slowly realize, because like no one really expected it, right? And even like Jarrett was sitting beside me and he goes, "Yo, is that Brandon Little in warm-up or in the skate?" And I'm like, "There's no way." And look up and like, yeah, that's his stride. That's number 18. There's no other
would have
guy.
ISO'd him on the cam too, right?
Yeah, so then the crowd slowly started figuring it out, and you could feel like the applause and the noise volumes elevate. So that was like pretty cool. Yeah, it was just one of those moments that built into naturally. And to have him do like the lap with the spotlight, and then it was honestly a pretty sweet touch to have him take the ceremonial face-off, dropped by his daughter against Sidney Crosby. Like, that's a moment, man. That whole the whole situation they handled so well. It was a moment really cool to be a part of. Really happy that Brian Little's doing well and got to have this moment for himself. I thought the fans handled it well every single time in arena when they'd show him or show a little video montage, which I want to say there was 2 or 3 where they either would interview him or show a different video, one of his highlights, one from season ticket holders, and one where they interviewed him. And every single time it led to like a standing O and the crowd going nuts. It was just really cool to see and to get to be a part of that in this market where that just hasn't happened yet.
Yeah. And it's been a while, and he was absolutely one of the more like endeared players to this community too. 100%.
100%. So yeah, no, that was great to be a part of. Great to see him a part of it. And yeah, like you say, allude to, hopefully it leads to more of those, man. Those that was really cool to be a part of and to kind of have our moment to thank him for what he meant to this franchise early on.
The only other guy I could think of was what was the name? I can't remember. I can't believe I don't remember his name. It was they would take him to work and they'd take him to like a blue collar job sites.
Jimmy Slater. Jimmy
Yeah.
Slater.
That's such an all-time name too.
And you know what I think was a great touch? And there was a bit of debate about this. I was talking to Liz Hood from Winnipeg Sports Talk at the game today. And I guess they were talking about the build-up to both Brian Little night and obviously there's the Rucker McGroarty conversation around the Pittsburgh game.
And the chant.
Yeah, so let's get into that because here's my stance on it. Liz was telling me her chat this morning or Sunday morning was very much anti doing a record chant, and it should have been all for Brian Little today. I look at it, here's my perspective. I don't think there's a better way to welcome Brian Little back than to have the barn feeling like it was when he first showed up with the chants that made Winnipeg unique and got us on TSN and got us blowing up on social media and got a rep of this blue collar town that is going to go after a team's best players. Or if a player disrespects this market, guess what? You're going to spend 60 minutes hearing about it. I thought it was actually the perfect touch all around.
60 minutes for the rest of his career, too, every time he's here.
Yeah, exactly. So I love the Where's Record chant. That is awesome. It's in good spirits. And I'm someone that has been very open on the show saying I have no issue with what Rucker did. I think a player controlling his situation is more than fine. And I have no issue at all. And I love that the fan base wanted to respond to that. Hey, at the end of the day, sports are entertainment. Drama is part of entertainment. If you could add a little bit of that to the mix, all good with me. I loved how today played out.
I will say so soft he wasn't on the team tonight.
I know.
Ridiculous.
I thought it would have been perfect to actually have him in the press box with Pittsburgh, both for the chant, but also to watch how this market celebrated somebody that really took this city in. I just think that would have been a great touch. Obviously funny nonetheless, and shout out to I was happy to be a part of those chants, and I've defended Rucker. It was fun, man. That's people go to the barn to have fun. That's part of it.
So another little note, I think a bit more of a personal for you, but you ran into Mr. Kevin Cheveldayoff at a charity event earlier this week too, didn't you?
Yeah, and I think this is just a great spot. All the good vibes on this podcast. A great spot to just highlight more good from the Winnipeg Jets organization. We're just absolutely farting rainbows the last couple of weeks. The two of us. We're waving the pom poms hard here, but I thought it was really good on the Chevy. I went to Riddell Batista's for his family, the Baby Gaby Bowl, and all the money raised was going towards the Scott Oak Foundation. And so we're there bowling, and in walks Kevin Cheveldayoff, and of course, like, people race to want to talk to him and everything, and it was actually pretty impressive how many people like kind of waited for him to give people the okay, which, you know, Winnipeg just treating people the right way. But shout out to Kevin Cheveldayoff. You show up and represent in this market, small town, for a charity that impacts this city. I think it just reflects really well, and to see that, to his credit, he spent a lot of time there on his Saturday afternoon. And he could be very busy or find a way to be busy. 100%. And he was very open with people as far as giving people the time of day to just chat with him. If you wanted pictures, taking pictures, like he just handled everything so well. And I just think it was another feather in the cap to the Winnipeg Jets organization to see the big boss coming in and surprising people doing good in the market. At the event. So shout out to Chevy there. The thing is, like, I kind of have this thing where I don't like bringing up public sightings. I don't want to be TMZ kind of thing. And it's funny, as this podcast has gained a little bit more of a following, as I've kind of gained a little bit more, I get DMs all the time of, I saw this person at this place, and like that's just not the stuff I'm interested in talking about. We are talking about people that have their own lives, but I do think this is a situation where I just think it really reflects well on the org. So I have no problem talking about it. Chevy was It was just, I thought it was really professional, really respectful type of move to show up to an event like that. So I thought it was something good to share on the podcast that this is someone that represents the org, and I thought he handled, and that stuff goes far in a market like this, right? So
great time. So I don't know if there's anything else you truly want to touch on. Anything? I think we did a great job. I didn't want to go into like a concerning thing forward because I think we just did such a good job keeping it so positive the last 2 weeks.
Yeah, no, the other thing I just wanted to touch up, and I should have touched on it with the coaching side of things. Obviously, Game 5, we saw that for the first time, Scott Arniel went to his press box. So David Gustafson took Rasmus Kupari. Right. Logan Stanley took Hayden Fleury. And then Eric Comrie got his first start. So I just wanted to touch on that a little bit because it was quite the reaction on social media. Eric Comrie, he's going to have to play games. He's the backup here. Helly's played the first 4. Yep. I want Hellebyuck as fresh as possible. Pittsburgh's not the sexiest opponent right now. No issue with me there. I thought Eric Comrie played really well, actually.
Yep, got to win.
Got to win. Made 38 saves. It's one of those games where I'm going to have to rebuild my trust in comms. I noticed I flinched on the second shot of the game thinking it was going to go in already. Quality look, but he did very well to calm those nerves today. The athleticism side to side was on full display. I thought he handled tonight's first start really well. David Gustafson for Rasmus Kupari. We've been given a lot of praise to that fourth line really paving out a role. But at the same time, one of the things a lot of people weren't happy about with Rick Bowness is how long guys rotted away in the press box.
Yep.
And hey, we're 5 games in, you're 4-0-0. I just can't get worked up over changing a lineup, changing the 12th forward for the 13th forward and the 6th D for the 7th D. I thought Gus, it took him a little while to kind of get into that game. I thought he was a little bit late on his spots where he's normally such a driver when it comes to the forecheck and stuff like that. But as it was kind of pointed out on our post-game show, and that's what I like about the post-game show is everyone has a different perspective and can share it, and you could start piecing together some different takeaways. One aspect we were talking about on the post-game show is how much of Jenny Malkin didn't really stand out after his hot start.
Yeah.
And then when you look at it, Gus was the center playing heads up against him quite a bit of his shifts today. So again, a quality job done by David Gustafson and Morgan Barron and Alex Iafallo, who continue, whoever's the center on that line, pave a role that's very valuable to this Winnipeg Jets team. Yep. I'm very curious to see how Arniel makes a decision between Kupari and Gustafson moving forward. It became pretty clear that Arniel felt he knew what Gus was in camp, but he was leaning towards Kupari. And Kupari's had such a confident start. I imagine he gets back in next game. But I'm really curious to see how Arniel handles that. The last one, obviously, Logan Stanley in for Hayden Fleury. I was kind of talking about on the last post-game show that I think Hayden Fleury and Colin Miller have had a really strong start. I think Colin Miller's really carrying that pairing. And for me, watching Hayden Fleury a little bit, I kind of get the vibes of a bend, don't break type of player. Like it looks really awkward, maybe. So I think he's earned the minutes right now when it comes to him versus Stanley. But at the same time, we were just talking about it's 5 games in. You don't want guys to waste away there.
Yeah.
On the other side, I did think Logan Stanley had another Logan Stanley rough night. The puck on his stick, he self-implodes. On the goal, which one was it? Keller? The Keller unassisted. He just rims the puck to nobody. Colin Miller tries to step up for a big hit, misses.
Lars Ehler.
Lars Ehler, yeah. And Eller snipes it. But there was just so many times when the puck was on his stick in the D zone, when he just throws it away and it puts the rest of the Jets in a bad position. We almost saw it, too, on the shift where the Jets score the empty netter. Morrissey kind of cleaned things up for him. But it's just one of those things where we've heard in years past when Hanel would come up and would struggle with the puck, it was enough to send him back down. I don't want to hear the excuses of he's been banged up and whatnot. This has been a guy that's gotten every opportunity to show he could be a third pairing regular. And every time it blows up on himself. At this point, I just want to see Hayden Fleury until Hanel is back and can take that role. Because at some point, there's the aspect of you want to get guys in. And again, I had no problem with it. But at the other side, you got to earn those minutes. And we've seen it too long. He hasn't earned them. He hasn't become what they expected him to be. And I just can't watch it much longer, man.
Yeah. Yeah, it's just always been kind of forcing a player that's not really lived up to what we were probably hoping for when that draft pick was there.
Yeah, and at some point, you just got to realize you made a bad bet. There's better options, and you can move forward. Again, don't mind him getting in here. You got to use your guys, but I think today was just another example where it should be one of the last times we see him in a Winnipeg Jets jersey.
Yeah.
Other than that, though, great show, Brady. Vibes are good.
Thank you.
I had fun with this one.
We've done good the last couple of weeks, keeping them as high as possible. These ones are nice to do after the Leafs one, where I get I don't know what I'm going to get sometimes with Author. I'm going to get a high or a low.
Hey, I guess when a team is undefeated, that sure helps with the vibes and what you were talking about. Brady,
Sure
really
does.
enjoyed this one with you. Mikey, really enjoyed doing the post-game show earlier. I'm just going to throw this out there. The landing strip after games has become a ton of fun. The chat's always lively. The callers have been fun. We had 3 really strong calls today. Al Camino, I know he's going to be watching on YouTube. He's been a big supporter of us for a while. He called in tonight, loved what he had to say. We had a fun call from Kevin B. I hope he's not getting divorced today after his decisions he made. It was great to hear from him. And stressful. We know stressful. Every time the Jets win, we're going to get the 82-0 update, and it's a great way to start the calls. So I guess this is my long-winded way of saying I'm having a blast chatting with all of our viewers, supporters, and whatnot, not right after the games. So if you're looking for a post-game show after each game, come be a part of the landing strip where you run the show. You're the ones heard. We're just really trying to connect the audience and give the audience a voice, and it's been a blast. So make sure to check us out there post-games. We'll be back next week, Brady, to break down the bigger picture stories around the Winnipeg Jets. Thank you all for listening. Thank you all for supporting. Make sure to like, subscribe, and send this. Be a friend, tell a friend, eh? Send this to another Jets fan that's going to enjoy this. We'll be back next week. Thank you again. Take it easy.
Thanks.
This has been a Top Line Media production.